summer of 2000, when I was an executive in healthcare, clinical research at that time, I just started having this voice, and this voice said very, very deeply and very clearly that I'm supposed to be doing something very important. And I described that voice as being like a vibration. You know, when Barry White hits a bass note and you get that good vibration afterwards, that's what the voice felt like. And it just kept getting more persistent and more pronounced. And eventually that led me to seeking, after 6 months of that, seeking help from a friend who is a hypnotherapist in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she has a PhD in transcendental psychology, and she teaches the medical students at the university about spiritual phenomenology in illness and accident and things like that. So I figured that this was a person who could, you know, help me get to the bottom of what was happening. So I called her, and she offered to put me under hypnosis. And so I flew to Little Rock, Arkansas, and immediately, like going right into hypnosis within seconds, I found myself on the cross in the body of Jesus, experiencing all of humanity. And then in the next, so that went on for 3.5 hours. And then the next day, another whole big thing. And then when I went back to Washington, D.C., everything just started happening spontaneously. And so, because now I had no control over anything, it was just coming on its own, and no one could help me. No one could help me anywhere hold this incredibly profound stuff, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so it just weighed very heavily on me. And so as I was trying to hold my very big executive life in the balance with this stuff going on, and then when everything in my normal life fell apart, I didn't have anywhere to go. There was nobody that could help me.
Refer a lot to Jesus on the cross and that concept, which is a Christian concept for Catholicism. You know, do you believe in other religions, or is it just that
Well, I've also embodied Buddha and angels.
Okay, we don't talk about that. You seem to be more on the Christian.
Well, it's because it was my original experiences, and the Buddhist experience didn't start until after the suicide attempt.
And other religions, such as, you know, Allah and other ones, do you?
I've never encountered any of the other religious figures, Krishna, Allah, and nor have I embodied women. Okay. So none of the female figures either.
So the second part is, in all religions, well, pretty much, there's this concept of good and evil. What's your take on good and evil? Do you think they coexist?
So it was only in 2016, just 2 years ago, that I began to be able to talk about what all that wisdom is and how it applies to what's happening in the world today. And the reason I was able to do that was because of a really big, profound metaphysical experience in April of 2016, in which I encountered the fundamental block in humanity, this illusory block that keeps us all unable to be aware of ourselves as the oneness of life. And it's all entirely related to this good and evil paradigm, entirely. So I grew up around, my father was also a crook, and so we were on the run all the time. So literally, I never spent a single school year in the same school. And we just moved running from the law from Texas and all up and down the West Coast and whatever. So I'm originally from New Mexico, and that's where my grandmother and her family were from as well. And they're all devout Southern Baptists, like really big Bible-thumping Southern Baptists. And so that was, every time we were around my grandmother, that's the environment in that very judgmental, very preachy kind of way. But my grandmother was the sweetest soul on earth, and that's who I'm named after. Her name is Mary Reed as well. And so she always loved everybody. She loved everybody, no matter. And so she walked the walk of that love. But she also talked the talk of the church, and so she was really judgmental about it. And this is what was confusing me when I came into knowing, like regularly. I can remember, swinging in the trees, and Jesus is like swinging there with me. It's like always Jesus was present. And then I would hear my grandmother, who loved Jesus madly, talking very differently about the Jesus she knew through church, about sin and judgment and that sort of thing. So it was very, very confusing to me. And for me, Jesus was just always the name that was given to what is already within us. this goodness that's in the heart. And when I say goodness, there's not an opposite to it. It's just godness. This godness that's in the heart, that's this kindness that always knows that I don't want to hurt anybody, and that knows about what is a kind way to be. People call that Jesus, and that's the name that sort of I identify with in there.